We are seated here because of the monetary policy statement that was delivered by our governor. And why the monetary policy statement? It was because of currency volatility, high inflation, and low confidence in business. And we are here to ensure each other that we want to move together as a nation. So there are quite a number of issues. As monetary policy, when we got it as the committee, we sat down, I think it was on Monday, to look at the monetary policy statement as your committee. And we had quite a number of issues that we observed. So I will try to align what came from the committee and some of the issues that came out here. The first point, Governor, I attended the launch of the MPS. And I remember you saying very well that I'm not going to do someone's job. And as stakeholders, while we are here, what we have noted as a committee is we need rigorous implementation of the Know Your Client Charter by banks. Why I'm saying this is, Governor, the business community loves you, and the business community has confidence in you. But we also don't want your job to be taken by the governor of the street bank. Because already they've started advertising. But you see, if you check, most of the transactions, they are happening through our banking platforms. They advertise, they transfer money through our banking platforms. Are we saying, as a nation, we are not in a position to come up with a national switch that can populate people's banking accounts? Because I've seen someone in the streets who has got literally a bank account in every commercial bank. You go to the streets, they will tell you, where do you bank? And they will do immediate transfers. So the recommendation that came out from our committee is, I think there is need for us to deploy smart technologies, artificial intelligence, for you as a bank to be able to populate bank accounts and be in a position to monitor what is happening. The issue of deploying the police to police the policy may not work. Let's be smart. Then the other issue that came out is the promotion of financial inclusion and bank intermediation. I may not know the specific figure, but I think as the banking sector, you might be sitting on around $2.5 billion in nostro balances. You correct me on that. And I think we've got enough balances as a country. And we are saying the role of bars in here. What the general populace is complaining is the issue of bank charges. Honorable Governor, we applaud you for the $100, where you say if bank balances are $100 or below, they are not subject to bank charges. But the major complaining that is coming out is, there's someone who said to me, mabengi enyu ava ma-real estate companies kupera kwemwedzi vari collector rent. What the person was saying is, banks are there to just wait for month end to collect bank charges. And we are saying the core business of banks should promote financial intermediation. And there is need for the monetary policy to relook the issue of bank charges. Then the other point that came out is on cross-border transactions. the transfers. What is coming out on that is we need to promote bank use. We need to deal with the problem of money laundering. Can't we come up with a policy that looks at certain figures that should pass through the banking system, not us just receiving goods coming from outside and we don't know where the money is coming from. So cross-border payments should be encouraged to be done through our banking system. Then stakeholder involvement. If you look at the post-monetary policy workshops that we have done, if we have done that before the announcement, I'm sure we would have solved a lot of problems. The issue is we have got a tendency of consulting too much after announcement. We need to work together as stakeholders so that before announcement, the policy is taken into a lab, test run it, and I'm sure when we do that, we'll be able to deal with some of the issues that are coming out here. So there is need for stakeholder engagement. We have done that with fiscal policy. They will start from budget strategy paper, they will go out to do the consultation, and we would want that to be done even with the monetary policy. Then the use of the ZIG. Honorable Governor, I think the elephant in the room, I know people have said they are only elephants, but the elephant in the room is confidence. The moment we announce that the ZIG will not be able to buy this, I think we would have lost it. The exchange rate is market-based. The discovery price is going to be determined by the market. And it is up to the market to embrace the ZIG in line with the market conditions. And I think this is very critical. The market will find its way. And I think for us, we are saying the acceptability of the ZIG is going to depend on how we allow the market to operate freely. So let's allow everybody to charge in ZIG. We should not exclude the fuel sector. Everyone should charge in ZIG. And I think this is very critical when it comes to confidence building measures. Then the other issue is SIE 6 of 2024. I mentioned it that day when you made the presentation, and I said the SIE 6 of 2024, presidential powers, temporary measures, they expire after 6 months. Which means, as central bank, you need to be up to your game to make sure that you align the laws before the expiry of 6 months. Because what it means is our ZIG will expire after 6 months. Then let's work on confidence building measures. The business community, I've heard your presentations here, saying the governor should walk the talk. Please, when the governor is walking the talk, walk with him. The problem is being spectators and specializing in criticizing. The business community, NDS1, Vision 2030 is very clear. At least you have got the political will. His Excellency is very clear. The development and the growth of this country is going to be private sector led. And you have been given. So what is needed is, when the government has given you the policy platform for you to make money, you should make money. Let's not focus on speculation and future hedging positions. In order for our currency to be strong, we can only do that when we produce. What is needed is production. Yes, we can talk about all these other issues, but let's produce. And I'm happy that the governor is committed. Those who listened to his monetary policy statement, I'm sure you are all happy that the governor is ready to make this country work. Then my last point is on timely communication. You know, somebody was talking about the velocity of circulation, and I also looked at the velocity of circulation of news. You see, when an economy is responding to news, it shows that that is an efficient economy. And I think the Arab is that when this point was brought out, the governor said he was going to look into it. But I also listened to the presentation that has been given by Graham. You see, from the presentation that has been given by Graham, what I'm probably imploring on the governor, the business community, what is coming out is, as a country, I think for now we are managing under VUCA, where there is volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity. There is need for us to take all those issues into account as we manage. And I think this will take us forward. You have heard about the El Nino. I think you can see that there's an element of uncertainty, volatility, and all these issues. So, as we move forward, let's not give up. Currency stability comes from production. And let's support our governor. Let's support government policy. I submit. Thank you.
Thank you, Jimmy. First, I have to start by apologizing for coming late, but there are certain assignments which, when you are sent to do, you can say no. So that is exactly what I was doing between 7:30 a.m. and just now. But I'm very, very sorry to have kept you waiting, and I hope what I'm going to say is going to make good what I didn't do right. Right, maybe let me start by addressing some of the issues that were raised by Honorable Chidua, because he's the only presenter I listened to when I arrived. He did talk about consultation. Before coming up with this monetary policy statement, we consulted far and wide. Jimmy, you came to my office, where I was renting, and you presented a paper, and we borrowed extensively from that paper. So that is consultation. If Chamber of Mines are here, they will testify that indeed we had sessions with them. We had sessions with the civic society. We had sessions with opinion leaders. And we even had to get a consultant from the World Bank to tell us what a structured currency is, how do you put it in place, what is it that needs to be done before it is there. So, unfortunately, Honorable Chidua, I did not have the time to come to Parliament, to the Portfolio Committee, but I think by consulting the industry representatives, civil society, and so forth, we covered a significant population of those people who needed to be consulted. So, then let me come to the issues that you raised, Jimmy. You talked about the calculation of the exchange rate going forward. What we said in the monetary policy statement is that going forward, number one, the exchange rate is going to be market determined. And this is what has happened over the past 3 days since ZIG has been running. At the end of the day, we collect all the trades that the banks have done and at what rate, and we come up with an average for the day, and that is what we publish, and that is what becomes the opening rate for the next day. It is working. However, over and above that, in the back office, we are running a formula which is based on the imperatives that I mentioned in the monetary policy statement. We are looking at the price of gold. We are looking at the exchange rates of the various currencies that are in the basket, including even the price of other metals that are in the basket. And we are looking at the inflation differentials between us and our trading partners. We put all that together, and we are tracking the exchange rate as it should be. As a central bank, what we then do is that if we think the market has pushed the rate too high, we can go in and intervene, buy or sell, to try and bring the market back in line. So, in time, dealers of the various banks that are operating in this country will know that when it gets to such and such a level, the central bank will intervene. But maybe they will not know. Because again, if the price of gold keeps going up and you are not pushing the rate up, we'll probably push the rate up to that level. But if it goes down, we'll also push it down to that level. But it's not just the price of gold. So you will never know when we are intervening and how. But by and large, let the market rule. Market forces are going to apply it when it comes to the calculation of the rate going forward. You did say that the market is going to test us from next week or even from this week. We are ready. I said in the monetary policy statement that we have over 100 million US dollars in nostro balances and cash. As we speak right now, after conversion, the amount of ZIG that is circulating in the economy is less than 80 million US dollars. What it means is that as the central bank, we can buy all your ZIG, all of it. But then that's not the end of it, because you are going to come back for it because of the other complementary measures that we have done in conducting treasury, where come the June QPD, you are going to be desperately in need of this ZIG. And where will it be? At the central bank, because you will have sold all your ZIG to us. And guess what? Maybe we may just keep the exchange rate downwards to 1:10. So that by the time we get to the next QPD in September, you realize that it's better to start accumulating ZIG now. One of the reasons also why I was late today is because already there is a bit of a market gridlock on ZIG. There is not enough ZIG in place to transact. So we were just saying, so how do we manage this? And that's why I kind of delayed, but over and above other things that I was doing. So if you want to test the market, if you've got a legitimate, genuine invoice, bring it to your bank. If it's not honored, you know my number. Call me. How do you see demand for ZIG panning out? I think I have covered that. We agreed with Treasury that 50% of taxes are going to be paid in ZIG. And that on its own is enough to create a huge demand for ZIG. I've been given some numbers that in any given QPD, Treasury would normally collect about plus or minus 300 million USD. 50% of that is 150 million USD. There's only 80 million worth of ZIG in the market. So you are actually persuading me to do a bit of quantitative easing so that we can meet your requirements. But whatever we are going to do will be within the limit of the reserves that we have. NNCDs, there's been an outcry. Yes, we had to lock that money up. I know it's going to affect a few, some corporates, even some individuals. But my mandate is to keep the amount of money in circulation in check. I would rather inconvenience a few corporates than inconvenience 15 million Zimbabweans when the rate starts going wild again. My role is to stabilize the Zimbabwe dollar. And that is exactly what we are going to do. Let's start with the NNCDs arising unfulfilled auction obligations. Just to prove to you that the people have not actually lost. Let's wind back to November when the rate was about 6,000. Let's assume that you bought 1,000 US dollars and you gave 6 million RTGS to the central bank. Today, we have converted your 1,000 US dollars at 33,000 and given you ZIG. Those who have got calculators can work out what you now have. You have 1,000 US dollars. But if you hadn't gone to the auction, that money would have disappeared in your hands because your 6,000, your 6,000 times 1,000, 6 million, the RTGS, would by now have been divided by the erosion that has happened in the exchange rate and would be worth nothing. So you have hedged. And over and above that, you are going to get 7.5% interest, all in the interest of trying to protect this economy. When we look at this, let's not look at it from an individual perspective. Let's look at the nation. We are all going to have to sacrifice to make this thing work. If I'm going to release all this ZIG into the market, you know what it is going to do to the exchange rate, and you know what it is going to do to volatility. You know that the illegal foreign currency vendors are waiting for that, and we're not going to give them that chance. So, unfortunately, on that one, we are not going to budge. Whether it is NNCTs that have been issued to banks, whether it is NNCTs that have been issued for unfulfilled auction obligations or unfulfilled surrender obligations, for now, in the interest of the nation, let's keep them as NNCTs. As we grow reserves, we will be in a position to release those, but after the prescribed period. The request for special financing in view of the drought, those are things that we can look at. We would welcome any paper that you can present so that as the central bank, we can look at it. There is concern that the formula for government borrowing as per Reserve Bank Act is such that if they were to come in, they would destabilize everything that we are doing. Yes, I agree. But what we are forgetting is that the Act does not say that the government is entitled to borrow that money. They will have to come to us as the central bank. We look at the reserves that we have, and we don't have to give them that amount. I think I made it very clear in my last engagement in the presence of the Permanent Secretary, and he confirmed it. They don't have the power to force us to do anything. Our role is to be banker to them. If you cannot go to your bank manager yourself and say, I demand an overdraft of 10,000, it means the PS also cannot come to me and say, I demand an overdraft of that money. We have to say, are we able to do it within the ceiling that we have in terms of reserves, and also with regard to the amount of money circulating in the economy. But let's not even talk about that. The government has not come to the central bank to borrow. Well, for as long as I can remember, I've looked at the records of the central bank. They don't borrow. We actually have their money. Their credit balances in the bank. So, in the likely event that they want to come to borrow, it will be on the assumption that we want to do it and we can do it within the limit of the reserves that we have. Okay, those are the issues that you raised, Jimmy. I was following the proceedings, and some of the points that were being raised were being sent to me, but I don't know how you want us to proceed going forward. Do you want people to ask questions?
Yes, we can move to questions. I think she wanted to make some general remarks.
Well, I think let's proceed by way of questions. It's easier that way.
Great.
Concise communication of clear objectives of the Reserve Bank, setting targets that can be believed by the public will restore RBZ confidence. Again, if you read the monetary policy statement, we started by defining what the problem is. Then we said, what are the objectives? What is it that we are trying to achieve? Currency, exchange rate, and price stability. Then we said, what measures do we put in place? The people sitting on the RBZ table will tell you that after the monetary policy statement, we have now set up an implementation committee within the central bank, which is going to look at each and every measure that we put in place and say, what is it that we need to do, and track it daily, weekly, monthly, to say, are we on track? Over and above that, this country has a liquidity management committee comprised of members from the central bank and from the Ministry of Finance. It is going to be meeting weekly, looking at the cash flow that is circulating in the economy, and then seeing what it is that is supposed to be done. This is the same committee which has established that as we now head towards the salary day, if we didn't do what we have done this morning, we were going to see a serious liquidity crunch. We don't want that to happen. We also don't want to see a situation where the measures we have put in place result in deflation. That is not the whole idea behind the monetary policy statement. The other one is a repetition. Monetary policy alone cannot be the panacea to solving macroeconomic stability. There is need for complementarity. Yes, I think I did talk about that. We need to develop a clear roadmap for using ZIG to purchase fuel. Honestly, I don't know why there is this hype about just fuel. With your ZIG, you can buy all the other things you want to buy. This economy is 80 to 85% dollarized. What this means is that on average, if I were to search your pockets, I would find $85 in US dollars and maybe $15 equivalent in ZIG. So where's the problem? But having said that, I did announce in the monetary policy statement that, yes, we have 31 December 2030 as the date when the multi-currency arrangement comes to an end. We don't want it to be an overnight event. We want to start building more and more demand for the Zim dollar, such that maybe if we can do 70-30 by end of this year, 70% being forex, 30% being local, maybe 60-40 by end of 2025, and when we get to 50-50, people will be indifferent as to which currency they are using. And then when we get to 2030, we don't even have to announce it. People will be using their ZIG. And in the process, as we travel along that path, that's when we will say maybe fuel can also be included in that, in commodity that can be sold in ZIG. We don't want fuel queues. Things are working, so let it be. What are the mechanisms to be used by government to create demand for ZIG? I think we answered that. Okay, all the other things are just repetitions.